Welcome to Get the Facts, the show that gives you information on the latest topics. The first case of HIV/AIDS was reported in the US in 1981, leading to an epidemic which calls for safer sex and education against discrimination. Today, the disease is no longer considered a death sentence, thanks to major progress in treatment options. But there is still work to be done, and the Jamaica AIDS Support for Life continues to aid those affected and educate the wider population. World AIDS Day serves as an important reminder that we must remain steadfast in our commitment to preventing new HIV infections and providing essential services to people living with the disease. Now, with us today is Monitoring and Evaluation Manager at Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, Xavier Biggs. Mr. Biggs, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with you telling us a bit about Jamaica AIDS Support for Life. The why. Let's start with the why.
So the Jamaica AIDS Support for Life is a non-government organization that got started back in 1991.
Right.
When HIV entered the Caribbean space in the 80s, we just knew that our friends and our family were dying from this strange, mysterious virus. And so as an organization, we were formed back in 1991 to develop a hospice first that was supposed to do final rites care for those we love.
Okay.
Fast forward to 2024. We are a comprehensive health and case management system that covers the entire continuum of care, starting with HIV education and prevention, through to diagnosis and treatment. And we also do programs in enabling environment and human rights. So we span that entire continuum, ensuring that wherever people are, they are able to access appropriate information for their needs, and we provide a solution to them.
Okay, so if I'm parsing this correctly, at start,
Yes.
it was a sort of end of the road
Yes.
sort of intervention, but now from day one to life,
Yes.
right? From day one to life, Jamaica AIDS Support for Life is there to support those who are affected and also sensitizing.
Yes.
And I'd like to underline and dig in with the sensitizing bit. How do campaigns work and education in communities?
So HIV, a big part of the challenge we've found with HIV is that transmission occurs because people do not have adequate information. And so it was important to start there first.
Okay.
And so we have a package known as HIV 101 that focuses on HIV education and sensitization.
Right.
We do that in schools, communities, workspaces, wherever people will have us. And we start by having a conversation around safer sex practices and general things that can be done to protect yourself from contracting HIV.
Got you. And what's the reception like? What are we
Well,
seeing?
the reception varies because, people are at different stages. And for example, in the workspaces, some people might not in that moment want to have certain conversations because colleagues might be around, but in a one-on-one, they might respond differently.
Right.
But we've had major successes generally with these conversations because people either in these group settings respond well to the information, take our contact information and reach out to us post, or because of the consistent nature in which we've been able to do it over the last 30 plus years, we've built a reputation that people know that they can reach out to us and we will provide them with the information that they need.
Right. Consistency.
Yes.
Consistency is key, as well as knowledge is power.
It is.
We always hear those. Cliches are true still, So we see. Now, can you share a success story with us?
I mean, HIV, there are several success stories if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. One that comes to mind is an individual who found out through a random health screening process that they were HIV positive. The numbers that monitor their health outcome would suggest that they had advanced HIV.
Numbers being?
Meaning so there are a few numbers that are used to monitor HIV care, such as your CD4 or your viral load.
Oh, okay.
And those numbers would suggest at the time that the individual would be in an advanced stage of having HIV.
Right.
Fast forward to now, they are on treatment, they're healthy, perfectly normal, and we're talking 10, 12 years later. So there are several stories like that about HIV. And if you come into Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, wherever you are on the continuum, be it just a novice that needs to get information, we'll give you some of that. If you're someone who, when tested, is found to be reactive to HIV, then we can add you on treatment immediately, and we support you through that entire process.
Right. Now, you said if we come in, we can find you guys online?
Yes, man. We're on all the social media spaces. So we're on Instagram at Jassel Info, we're on Twitter at Jassel Tweets, and we're on Facebook at Jamaica AIDS Support for Life. But outside, and we're definitely on TikTok. I'll check you back for that one. But in these spaces, we offer offlining, where we start the conversation in our DMs, and then we can offline individuals to come in for physical services. We also have 3 locations across the island. We're at 3 Hendon Drive in Kingston, 14 King Street in St. Anne's Bay, and 16 East Street in Montego Bay.
Right.
But from these 3 locations, we provide services across the entire island.
Got it. There's one thing I wanted to ask about the whole continuum of care.
Yes.
Especially for those affected. Mental health is a big deal nowadays,
Yes.
right? Is that a part of the package, dealing with the knowledge that this is happening to me?
So you remember we said comprehensive health and case management
You
system
did.
at the start of the conversation?
You did, yes.
One of the things that we know at Jamaica AIDS Support for Life and incorporated in our program is that the HIV response is not just a medical issue. And so this comprehensive approach looks at the psychosocial elements, it looks at the economic elements, the different things that make people vulnerable. So we have as a part of our team a psychologist that helps people with early onboarding of the information and guiding them through that early stages, whether that be denial or just general acceptance overall, and supporting them through the process. There's a case manager that's a part of the system that designs personalized healthcare plans with the individual so that we can decide what are the needs that this individual will have over time. So the program is extremely comprehensive. Beyond that, we also look at the environment that people access care in. And so we have conversation in the legislative spaces that looks at the laws and policies that affect how people access services. And we provide solutions there as well.
Right. So advocacy is a
big part of what we do.
We're going to pick up this conversation because I want to ask you a little bit about how the landscape has changed.
Sure.
You know, how many years did you said 30?
So we got started back in 1991. So this year, Jamaica AIDS Support for Life is 33 years old.
33 years old. Please, we're going to take a break right now, but do stay with us.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
Welcome back. We're discussing the work of the Jamaica AIDS Support for Life. Yes, I'm sure I got that one right.
You did.
And we're discussing this with Mr. Biggs. Now, Sir Biggs, we broke on the question, how has the HIV AIDS and treatment changed over the years, the landscape, how has it changed, the advances? Well, I want to add something to that as well, because it's not just those affected, it's also the whole society. Yes. So how has perception shifted over the 30 plus years of your existence?
Okay, so the best way to understand the HIV landscape is to understand how treatment has evolved over time.
Sure.
So when the virus came about, like I alluded to earlier, we had no information about it. We did not know what was causing it. We just knew that people that we knew and loved were dying.
Right. So
in 1997, when ARVs were first introduced, it was also
antiretrovirals.
Yes, antiretrovirals.
Right, so getting the facts.
Yeah. So when that was introduced back in 97, it was still very rough. It was a new drug, the toxicities were high. And so over time, treatment has been refined. If you watch videos from back then, people will tell you that they were taking as much as 10, 12, 20 pills. Fast forward to now, people take 1 tablet for management of HIV generally.
Per day?
Now that one tablet per day. Now that 1 tablet is usually a 2 or 3 drug combination, but it's an effective treatment for managing HIV. So right now, Jamaica has, within its service delivery model, one of the most effective treatments for HIV management, and people can be well managed on 1 combination tablet daily.
That's a big deal.
That's a
20
big
down
deal.
to 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Another thing that has changed in the landscape is before we could only talk about condom use and reducing partners. We've now added biomedical interventions, and so there are things like pre-exposure prophylaxis. So pre-exposure prophylaxis is a one-a-day drug that people can take to reduce their chances of contracting HIV by up to 99%.
Right.
Of course, there's a conversation about seasons of risk and all of that needs to happen. But the fact that we have these options available, it means that people no longer have to die from HIV because we have solutions ready for them.
Right, right.
Now, HIV is also managed on what's called a treatment cascade.
Okay.
And this looks at the total number of people believed to be living with the virus. It goes down to the number believed to be diagnosed, then those on treatment and those virally suppressed. The aim of HIV treatment is viral suppression, because in viral suppression, people are not able to pass the virus on to anybody else. So here are some numbers for you.
Please.
In December 2023, we believe that there are 26,000 people believed to be living with HIV in Jamaica.
Right.
The models are always changing, and so you'd have heard different numbers over time, but when you factor death and migration and all of that,
Right.
we're at 26,000.
26,000, okay.
Of that, we believe that just about 90%, 23,500 thereabout, know their status. Where we start running into a little bit of trouble is that 16,100 and about 11 are actively retained on treatment. So the first gap we have is that there are people who are aware of their status who are currently not on treatment. Beyond that, 16,000 plus who are retained on treatment, 11,400 plus are virally suppressed, which is about 71% of that number.
Right.
So if you start doing the math, you realize that we have some gaps along the way, because you have to get to viral suppression so that you can't pass it on.
Right.
And you also have to be on treatment so that your numbers can be monitored and all of that.
You can get to viral suppression.
Exactly.
Right.
So if you start looking at the numbers from that perspective, you'll realize that whilst we've made significant gains, there are still areas in which we have gaps.
Right.
And we need to continue the momentum around HIV management so that people can get tested firstly, get on treatment, and then ultimately move to viral suppression.
I'm wildly curious. You have another half of the question to answer for
Sure.
me, but I'm wildly curious. What do you see from your statistics and research that accounts for the aware but not on treatment?
You see, that's a very good, and I'm happy you went there, because stigma and discrimination continues to be the leading cause of new infections globally. People are afraid to go to health facilities because they are afraid of how people might react to them or treat them in these spaces, or if people were to find out. There are some major misconceptions around how HIV is transmitted, and that has fueled some discrimination over time.
Right.
So a part of the work that we do at Jamaica AIDS Support for Life is anti-discrimination work that focuses on going into communities, doing the sensitization, and ensuring that people understand that the virus is not what you think it is, and you can't contract it in the ways that people normally think it is. It's not something you can't get it by hugging or sharing a plate and stuff like that, or sharing a home with someone.
Normal human contact.
And normal human contact. And so we have to dispel those things, because these things are keeping people out of care. We take the anti-discrimination conversations further by advocating for anti-discrimination legislation, because we believe if those things are in place, it will create a safety net for people living with HIV to access services in an environment that is free from stigma and discrimination. So this is a part of what we do to kind of balance that bit.
Got it. Second part of my question now,
Sure.
how have you seen the landscape change with the education campaigns over the last 30 plus years? How have you seen public perception shift?
So public perception varies. So there is one subset that will get it and will run with it.
Right.
There's another subset that you have to keep going back to.
convinced of it,
And
okay.
also with the nuances around where and how we can enter the school system and at what age we can start having these appropriate conversations, then there's another gap that might be presenting there. So on average, we engage individuals 16 years and older.
Right.
Because that's what the law allows for. But there might be opportunities, because the Knowledge, Attitudes and Practices study tells us that the age of sexual initiation is happening at 12 and 13. So that also is a little bit frightening, because it means that young people might not currently have access to all the information that they need to make informed sexual decisions around how we engage with them.
Got it.
Because of how we engage with them, sorry.
Understand. All right, we're in the tail end. We're
Sure.
in the tail end of this interview. Real quick, what's the future? What's the future vision?
You know, You know, we want to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. It won't disappear, but we want to get numbers to a place where we have what's called epidemic controlled. 95% of those who have the virus know their status, 95% of that on treatment, and 95% virus suppressed. If we achieve these numbers, then we have what's called epidemic control, and we are better able to manage what new infections look like over time. But to do this, a couple of things have to happen.
Sure.
People have to get tested. There has to be that willingness to get tested.
Right.
There has to be that willingness when people know their status to get on treatment, stay on treatment towards becoming virally suppressed. And of course, you have to take on new interventions such as your pre-exposure prophylaxis and condom use. If we do this, then the prospects for the future would be great.
All right. Now, I know we said we were in the last few moments.
Yes.
Now, this is literally the last 2 seconds.
Yes.
If you could just speak directly to our audience and give them the last word on your heart.
So, I mean, it's get tested, try PrEP, get on treatment if you know if you know your HIV status. Give us a call at Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, 925-0021, and from there we'll direct you to the site that best fits your needs.
Best fits your needs. And let's bring back what you said right at the start. Comprehensive.
Comprehensive health.
There we
That's
go.
the goal.
Mr. Biggs, thank you for joining us. And this has been Get the Facts. I do hope you have a productive week.
Thanks
See
for
you
having
next
me.
time.